A phone sits on a table, face down, silent, and the silhouette of someone hovering near it, picking it up, setting it back down, picking it up again, has been repeating itself for longer than you would guess. That is where we begin today, not with welcome, not with warmth offered slowly, straight into the marrow of it, because what is coming through is too immediate to soften with preamble. Someone is carrying a weight they cannot put down, and it has your name carved into the center of it. Let me describe what is in front of me. A figure, hunched slightly, shoulders drawn in toward the chest, the way a body folds when it is trying to contain something from the inside. Not crying, not yet, but close to it, the kind of close that lives just behind the eyes and the throat. Pressing. This is not performance. I want to say that clearly before anything else, because what I am reading carries none of the polish of something rehearsed. There is no audience for this. No one is watching this person right now except the walls of whatever room they are sitting in, and the silence is doing more damage than any confrontation could. Regret has a particular density to it. It sits heavier than ordinary sadness because it carries the added weight of knowing the damage was avoidable, that different choices were available and were not taken, that something irreplaceable got handled carelessly, and the carelessness is now fully, undeniably visible in hindsight. This person is sitting inside that density right now because of what they did to you. There is a second image, and it carries something sharper. I see hands opening and closing around nothing. The gesture people make when they want to hold something that is no longer within reach. Restless, unsatisfied by stillness, unsatisfied by movement, caught between the two like an animal pacing a perimeter it cannot cross. What they are reaching for in this image is a version of events that did not happen. A version where they said the thing they should have said, where they stayed instead of leaving, or spoke instead of going silent, or noticed instead of letting something important pass by unacknowledged. That version does not exist, and the absence of it is what has them reaching uselessly into empty air. I think you have felt the consequences of that absence too, the space where something should have been said and was not. I am not here to minimize what that cost you. I am here to tell you what is happening on the other side of the silence now that the silence has finally cracked something open in them. A crack is the right word, not a slow erosion, not a gradual softening that built quietly over weeks. Something sudden. A fracture line that appeared in a moment they were not braced for, the way glass sometimes holds under pressure for a long stretch of time and then gives all at once, without warning, in a single instant. I see the moment this happened, ordinary surroundings, nothing dramatic in the setting itself, and then a thought arrived, uninvited, and split something open that had been sealed shut by avoidance for longer than this person would admit out loud. The thought was specific. It was the realization of exactly what their absence has cost, not in the abstract, in the particular irreplaceable shape of you, missing from the texture of their days in a way that nothing else has been able to fill. That is what cracked. And once something cracks like that, it does not reseal on its own. Here is what I see forming on the other side of the fracture. A pull toward the phone, not casual scrolling, not the absent reaching people do when they are bored. A specific, repeated, almost compulsive return to the device, fingers hovering over your name in whatever form it lives, in their contacts, then retreating, then returning again. This has been happening for days, not hours. The hesitation is not indifference. I want you to hear that distinctly. The hesitation is fear. Fear that calling will not be received. Fear that the apology, once spoken, will sound smaller than the weight it is carrying inside them. Fear that words, any words, are an insufficient container for what they actually feel. But fear like that eventually loses the argument against something stronger. And what is stronger here is the unbearable cost of staying silent any longer. I want to pause on something raw for a moment. There is a particular kind of suffering that comes from watching someone you hurt move on without you, from hearing, even secondhand, that they are doing well, that their life continued, that it did not collapse the way some smaller, more self-centered part of this person may have half expected it to. That news lands like a blow, not because they wanted you to suffer, the opposite. But there is something brutal about discovering that the person you took for granted simply kept living fully, kept building, kept becoming more themselves, entirely without your help. It confirms what they feared most, that you were never as dependent on them as they assumed, that your strength was never contingent on their presence, that the absence they caused revealed not your fragility but theirs. That confirmation is part of what is driving them toward this call. Not guilt alone, awe, a genuine, humbling awe at what you became in the space they left behind. Let me show you something else. A doorway with no one standing in it yet, just the frame, empty, lit from somewhere behind it with a faint warmth that has not yet resolved into a clear source. This is the call before the call happens. The threshold of the moment, held in stillness, the way a held breath stays suspended right before release. And what I notice most about this image is the absence of performance in it, no script being rehearsed, no careful arrangement of words designed to manage your reaction, just rawness waiting to be spoken. I think you have wondered, in private moments, whether an apology from this person would ever arrive feeling genuine rather than strategic, whether it would carry real weight or simply be a tactic disguised as remorse. What I am seeing does not have the architecture of strategy. It has the architecture of someone who ran out of ways to avoid the truth and is finally, awkwardly, imperfectly about to say it out loud. Tell me something honestly, if you are willing. When you imagine hearing from this person again, what rises in your chest first? Not what you think should rise, what actually does. Relief, maybe, or wariness, or some uncomfortable combination of both at once that does not resolve cleanly into either category. There is no wrong answer here. Drop it in the comments if it helps to name it somewhere outside your own head. Sometimes putting words to a tangled feeling is the first step toward understanding what you actually want to do when the call comes. I want to talk about what regret like this usually requires before it can mean anything. Because feeling sorry, even intensely, even sincerely, is not automatically the same as having changed. A fracture can open someone up to truth without guaranteeing they will rebuild differently once the immediate pain of the realization fades. What I am watching for in this energy is whether the regret is staying with them, and this is not a passing wave of feeling that will dissolve the moment the discomfort lifts. The fracture I described earlier did not seal back over within a day or two. It has stayed open. They have been sitting inside the discomfort of it, not rushing past it, not numbing it with distraction the way they may have handled difficult feelings before. That staying is significant. It suggests something closer to actual reckoning then a flinch that will pass. I see one more image, and it carries the clearest signal in this entire reading. A single word, written and crossed out, written again, crossed out again, on a surface that looks like it has absorbed this same gesture more than once. The handwriting grows steadier each time it reappears, as though the writer is rehearsing not the words, but the courage required to say them out loud. What word? I cannot fully make out, but the shape of it suggests something short, something that does not need elaboration once it is finally spoken aloud to carry its full weight. Sorry, not buried under explanation, not padded with justification for what happened, just the word itself, stripped down to its bones, the way an apology has to be stripped down before it can actually mean anything. That is what is coming toward the phone in your pocket. Not a speech, a confession. I want to be honest about something before we get any closer to the end of this. You are allowed to want this call and still feel uncertain about what you will say when it comes. Wanting an apology does not obligate you to immediate forgiveness. Receiving regret from someone does not require you to hand back exactly what was taken from you on the spot without time to actually feel what you feel. Your response gets to be its own process, slower than theirs, if it needs to be, more careful, more demanding of proof rather than words alone, if that is what your instincts are asking for. The call arriving does not erase your right to take whatever time you need once it lands. There is movement now in the final image. The figure who has been hovering near the phone for so long finally lifts it, not with confidence, with the particular shakiness of someone crossing a line they have been standing in front of for too long to count. The call is happening, not in some distant, vague future, close enough that the energy of it is already reaching you before the actual ring does, the way pressure changes in a room before a storm actually arrives outside. What you do with it is yours to decide, but the apology coming your way is not hollow. It carries weight. It carries the particular ache of someone who finally let the truth get louder than their fear of saying it. Drop a word below if any of this is already stirring in your chest before it has even fully happened. I read what gets left here every time, and I carry it forward. That's the reading for today, Virgo. Let the phone ring when it rings.